Is there life after death? What do you think there might be after death? Is there really life after death? The answer is yes. Physics says that matter is not destroyed, but transformed, and some beliefs assure that the soul transcends to other worlds. This is one of the questions that human beings have asked themselves the most. What is there after death? And although it is a great question that has been present for years, there is no exact answer and it is somewhat uncertain. However, over time, different social groups have given different hypotheses, accommodating different beliefs about what may exist once people die. Theories of life after death according to some religions. 1. Reincarnation. In Eastern religions, such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and Sikhism, reincarnation is believed in. This means that there is a repetition of life and death cycles. The soul or spirit of a person, upon death, is reborn in another body, whether human, animal, or even plant. 2. Heaven and hell. Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam often describe an afterlife divided into two realms. Heaven, a place of eternal reward for the righteous, and hell, a place of eternal punishment for sinners. 3. Purgatory. Christianity, particularly Catholicism, introduces the idea of purgatory, an intermediate state between heaven and hell, where souls are purified before entering the presence of God. 4. Nirvana. In Buddhism, nirvana is a state of perfect peace and liberation from suffering, achieved by extinguishing desire and ignorance. 5. Spiritual rebirth. Other spiritual traditions speak of a spiritual rebirth or transformation of consciousness after death, in which the soul is freed from the limitations of the physical body. 6. The soul or spirit is the common element among religions. Despite the differences, many religions share certain common elements in their beliefs about life after death. Most religions postulate the existence of an immortal soul or spirit that survives the death of the physical body. 7. Final judgment. Many religions believe in a final judgment, in which a person's actions in life will be judged and determine their fate in the afterlife. What do scientists say about life after death? Physicist and cosmologist Sean Carroll, a professor at the California Institute of Technology, says that the existence of anything after death is impossible. Carroll says that we fully understand the laws of physics that underlie everyday life, and everything has to happen within those limits. He also claims that for there to be anything after death, consciousness would have to be completely separate from our physical body. Claims that some form of consciousness persists after our bodies die and break down into constituent atoms face a major, insurmountable hurdle: the laws of physics that underlie everyday life. Everything must happen within those boundaries, and there is no way within those laws to allow information stored in the brain to persist after death, Carroll explains. Some scientists have explored the possibility that consciousness is a quantum phenomenon and therefore might not be limited to the physical body. However, this theory is highly speculative and does not yet have broad consensus in the scientific community. If life continued after death, the quantum field would have revealed spiritual particles and forces. These are just known atoms and forces. There is no way for the soul to survive death, he tells Scientific American. To believe that there is something after death, to put it mildly, requires physics beyond the standard model. The most important thing is that we need some way for this new physics to interact with the atoms we have. Within quantum field theory, there cannot be a new collection of spiritual particles and forces that interact with regular atoms, because we would have detected them in other experiments, he concluded. Have people had experiences of life after death? Although there are only testimonies, there are people who claim to have had experiences with life after death. On the one hand, there are those who say they felt an experience of another dimension, or as many know, the light at the end of the tunnel. On the other hand, many speak of recognitions and conversations with relatives or friends who have already died. Scientists have studied near-death experiences for decades, but there is no clear meaning to this. Some experts suggest that these experiences could be caused by changes in brain chemistry during a near-death experience, such as the release of neurotransmitters. If the moon were to disappear, the Earth would face catastrophic consequences that would make life as we know it on the planet increasingly impossible. What would happen if the moon did not exist? Well, if the moon did not exist, the Earth would have climate chaos, changes in the growth of some plants, and an imbalance in the ocean tides. For billions of years, the moon has accompanied the Earth throughout its history, and its role is so important that it made life on the planet possible. But have you ever wondered what would happen if the moon did not exist? The moon is a natural satellite that orbits around our planet. Scientists believe that it was formed by the impact of a rocky body the size of Mars against the Earth. The main theory that is handled says that the remains of this collision ended up forming the moon about 4.5 billion years ago. NASA explains that the moon is located about 384,400 kilometers from Earth and is the only place in space where humans have set foot. In addition, this natural satellite is the fifth largest moon in the solar system, and throughout history it has been crucial for our planet. The effects that the moon has on Earth. The moon has illuminated our nights, but although this has been important, the Earth depends on this satellite to have conditions conducive to life. For example, this satellite is responsible for moderating the Earth's oscillation on its own axis, generating a climate that is relatively stable. But it is also responsible for forming the tides and guiding humans for thousands of years, providing light in the darkness. Many ancient cultures considered the moon as a goddess for its influence on their lives. For example, its observation guided our ancestors in activities such as agriculture and the measurement of time. What would happen if the moon did not exist? Now, what would happen if the moon did not exist? In a hypothetical scenario in which the moon disappeared, the Earth could face a series of phenomena that would make the existence of life impossible. Our natural satellite exerts a gravitational force of attraction that prevents the Earth from wobbling uncontrollably. The Earth would be a very different world if it did not have a moon. The moon's gravity prevents our planet from wobbling too much on its axis, which helps stabilize our climate, NASA explained. In this way, one of the first consequences is that the climate would be completely different and would become very unpredictable, affecting the functioning of ecosystems. The tides would also begin to weaken, and that would cause the ocean to not be oxygenated and cleaned naturally. In addition, ocean currents would weaken, and the atmospheric circulation pattern that distributes humidity and heat around the Earth would be affected. These currents are vital for marine animals because they transport nutrients and oxygen, and they would be the most affected. In this way, the climate could also undergo changes because our planet would lose its inclination in the axis of rotation that it has with respect to the sun. This would lead to the loss of the four seasons, summer, winter, autumn, and spring, that we have and to which plants, animals, and humanity have adapted evolutionarily. The existence of life would not be possible under these conditions. For example, the climate would be completely extreme and, therefore, there would be no crops. Although we lose much more than we gain. If the moon did not exist, the measurement of time would change, since days on Earth would last between 6 and 8 hours. It must be taken into account that days last 24 hours due to rotation. This movement would be altered without the gravitational influence of the moon, and the planet could rotate between 3 and 4 times faster. This increase in speeds could cause extreme winds where birds and insects could not survive. In addition, many species of plants would not exist, and all flora would undergo a drastic change. Another effect would be related to sleep and human behavior. Several studies determined that the phases of the moon affect the circadian rhythms with which physical and mental changes in people are regulated. Is the moon moving away from Earth? The scientific community discovered that the moon is moving away from our planet due to gravitational forces. Studies showed that the moon is moving away at a rate of 3.78 centimeters per year, but this is not a cause for concern. Although it would take millions of years to see a direct impact on our planet, this phenomenon draws the attention of scientists. It is estimated that when the moon was formed millions of years ago, it was closer to Earth, about 22,500 kilometers. The truth is that now it is about 384,400 kilometers away. This is a considerable distance and would confirm that this distance has been occurring throughout its history. The data began to be collected in 1969, when astronauts from the Apollo space program left reflectors on the lunar surface. In this way, scientists can calculate the distance with laser beams pointed at them and evaluating the speed it takes them to go and return from Earth. Monkeypox is a viral disease that spreads from an animal to humans and through close physical contact with an infected person. The World Health Organization, WHO, declared monkeypox an international public health emergency due to an outbreak in Africa. Health authorities around the world have been monitoring monkeypox cases since 2022 due to the growing number of cases. It is a situation that should concern us all. The spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying, said WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. Increase in cases due to a more dangerous strain of monkeypox in Africa. The situation in Africa led the WHO Emergency Committee to meet to assess its progress. According to reports, there are a dozen African countries that are experiencing outbreaks of monkeypox. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, said that more than 500 deaths have already been recorded and smallpox has spread to 13 countries in 2024. This entity estimates that infections on this continent increased by 160% in 2024 compared to the previous year. The most complex situation is in the Congo, where more than 96% of cases and deaths from this disease are reported. In addition, children under 15 years of age represent about 70% of cases and 85% of deaths. This situation led the WHO to declare monkeypox an international public health emergency. Everything is due to the increase in cases, and because the identified strain is very contagious. These conditions made it meet the criteria to declare this alert. Epidemiological analyses show that the current epidemic is caused by a more dangerous variant known as clade I. We are facing several epidemics with different clades in different countries, with different modes of transmission and different levels of risk, said the WHO director. In fact, this strain is the one that has been causing the increase in infections in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, and other African countries. Since January 2022, 38,465 cases have been recorded in 16 African countries, resulting in 1,456 deaths. What is monkeypox? What is monkeypox really? Pox or monkeypox is a virus that causes fever, fatigue, body aches, and a rash. It was first discovered in 1958. The disease was identified by 2 outbreaks of a virus in colonies of monkeys that were used in scientific studies. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, the first human case was detected in 1970 in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and since then it has become endemic in several countries in Central and West Africa. This disease is caused by a virus that belongs to the same family as chickenpox and generates symptoms that usually manifest with rashes on the skin. Scientists have explained that primates and African rodents can host the virus and infect people. However, it is unknown if there are other vectors for the transmission of this virus. How is monkeypox spread? How is monkeypox spread? Health authorities explain that this disease is transmitted when one comes into direct contact with an animal, person, or materials contaminated by the virus, especially with bodily fluids, including saliva. It is believed that transmission from person to person occurs mainly through large respiratory droplets. These generally cannot travel more than a few feet, so prolonged face-to-face contact is required, the CDC notes. In this way, the virus does not usually spread easily between people, and that is why the risk to the population is considered to remain low. Authorities recommend being alert to the appearance of any lesions on the body and reporting any symptoms. Laboratory tests determined that the clade IB strain causes skin rashes all over the body. But previous strains were characterized by localized rashes and lesions in the mouth, face, or genitals. What are the symptoms of monkeypox or mpox? Doctors have noted that people infected with monkeypox generally have fever, headache, and back pain. They may also have muscle aches, swollen lymph nodes, chills, and exhaustion. However, the main characteristic is the possible development of a skin rash that generally starts on the face and spreads to other parts of the body. The rash evolves and goes through several stages. It may look similar to chickenpox or syphilis, before finally forming a scab that later falls off, the experts said. For its part, the WHO explained that the incubation period for monkeypox is usually 6 to 13 days, but can also range from 5 to 21 days. The disease is generally mild and people recover from symptoms within a few weeks, but some may require medical attention and be hospitalized. The disease is often self-limiting and symptoms usually resolve spontaneously within 14 to 21 days. Symptoms can be mild or severe, and lesions may be very itchy or painful, the WHO said. The organization explained that the fatality rate is up to 10% in Africa, where children and pregnant women are most at risk. However, The emergence of a more dangerous strain could change these indicators and lead to greater contagion and mortality. Antonio Riano is known as El Diablo and was on the run after shooting and killing a young man in a bar in the U.S. in 2004. Antonio Riano was one of the most wanted people by the U.S. authorities, but everyone was surprised when this fugitive was captured while working as a police officer in Mexico. This Mexican, nicknamed El Diablo, was wanted for the murder of a 25-year-old man in Ohio 2 decades ago. It all happened on December 19, 2004 in a bar in the town of Hamilton, where the murder of Benjamin Becerra was perpetrated. According to the versions, this young man had been involved in a fight a few weeks before his murder. Thus, Benjamin returned to the bar and one of the employees asked him to leave the establishment, but he refused, and that was when Antonio Riano tried to help, but ended up in a strong argument with the young man. Things got out of control outside the bar, and suddenly shots were heard and Benjamin's body appeared lying on the ground. Antonio fled the scene and the authorities issued an arrest warrant. When they arrived at his home, they found the weapon with which he killed the young man and several documents used as false identities. A Butler County judge issued a formal charge against this man for first-time murder, but this Mexican had fled the U.S. His Facebook account gave him away. The U.S. Marshal Service managed to locate Antonio in the municipality of Zapotitlan Palmas, Oaxaca, where he was born 72 years ago. But everyone was stunned to discover that this fugitive was actually working as a police officer in this municipality in Mexico. Antonio had appeared on the program America's Most Wanted as one of the most wanted fugitives in the United States. Investigators began looking for him in January and discovered that El Diablo had a Facebook profile. This allowed them to track him down, and they determined that he lived in Oaxaca, where he worked as a municipal police officer. I thought, my God, there he is. A little grayer, a little older, but it was him, said Paul Newton, a former agent who was in charge of conducting the investigation for the Butler District Attorney's Office. On August 1st, he was captured and sent to Mexico City. The authorities extradited him to the United States and took him to a jail in Ohio. Butler County District Attorney Michael T. Gmoser highlighted the work of several authorities in capturing this fugitive. These types of arrests would not be possible without the cooperation and diligence of the investigators of the District Attorney's Office, the United States Marshal Service, and the United States Department of Justice, he said. Thus, Antonio Riano is awaiting the judicial proceedings in which his sentence will be determined. At his initial appearance, he was ordered held without bail and will face charges of murder and aggravated assault.